first I'm going to start with the most basic of all teachings in animation, the ball drop. How about first we decide the trajectory that we want our ball to bounce on. So I'll draw roughly like this. I want the ball to hit here, and then I want the ball to bounce, and then land here, and then go off the screen. That might be a little bit too sharp of a fixing my trajectory, because a ball is going to lose its momentum as it's like bouncing. So let's pick our keyframes. It'll go faster and faster until it bounces, and then it'll bounce really hard, and then when it's up in the air it'll kind of linger, and then it'll fall back down. Let's use this as like a background image, and then add another layer. This one doesn't need to be on hold. These are your options. You can like repeat, ping pong, hold. The one down here will be on hold so that it can be used as like a reference, but for the true animation you don't need it. So I'm just gonna draw where my ball is, and I'm gonna onion screen so I can see it. So I'm just moving to the next frame. So let's see how that looks. Well, like I said, 12 frames per second is my fave. Does that look believable? Let's see without this. I feel like it needs to stay longer in the air. Both here and over here. So the way that I do that is I space it out first, and then I add my keyframes that'll make it smoother later. I like to have my light box not like this, but just the 2 frames, and I also like to have it as a color, just so it doesn't look gray both sides, because that's hard to know what's up. I'm gonna add another one at the beginning too, just so it's like maybe 2 more over here. How does that look? That looks a bit like it has a life of its own. Something else you can do to kind of like add a little bit more pizzazz is you can give it a squash. So if I take away this one and I instead make it look a little bit flattened, and then the next frame make it look a little bit like stretched. It looks a bit more bouncy. Boing. Let's draw clouds. I like drawing clouds because you can't do it wrong. So clouds move in interesting ways. They follow the wind. So if these go off in this direction, and then the second body of the cloud kind of goes in a different direction, then we can start to get a sense of where the wind is coming from. Sometimes I like to look at clouds and imagine what they are, and like sometimes you can come to some like really interesting shapes. So that's a cloud. This is something that has no gravity, But what if we want to do something that has gravity? I'm going to animate a squirrel, and the squirrel is going to... first I'm going to draw the trajectory of the squirrel. Reference is really important in the beginning because like you don't want to make a mistake like in your animation. I mean, I look for reference mainly when I forgot how something looks, but otherwise I usually just consume reference just to like study in the first place. So like I'll spend a lot of my time just like at coffee shops looking at people's faces and how they move, and looking at like nature videos and just kind of like being inspired by what you think you see. It's a lot like looking at clouds where you just sort of like your imagination starts to create these like different you know, shapes. So these are keyframes. It would probably be best to make this longer. I think this needs a little bit longer too.